There are certain rules that one must abide by in order to successfully survive a horror movie.
I met this 6-year-old child with this blank, pale, emotionless face.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play? They're here.
Welcome to the Horror Cut.
What's up, horror fans? How we doing? Steg here from the Horror Cut. Gary?
I'm still here, aye.
You're still here? Good.
Here.
Like it. Happy days, happy days. We've got a very special guest on this week's episode, all the way from Edinburgh. Hey, got an exotic.
Away. Absolutely miles away.
Got Vito Milazzo. How you doing, Vito?
I'm absolutely grand. Absolutely grand. Thank you, Stephen and Gary, for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here, as always. And I hope this goes better than the last time I was on a podcast with Gary, where he gave Heat. Did you give the Al Pacino Robert De Niro classic Heat 6 out of 10, Gary?
I don't think it was as bad as that. Maybe 6.5, 7.
Listen, this might be me just talking emotionally. Italy are not going to the third World Cup in a row. But Gary, you're a fucking shambles out there.
I can see this episode just be used to like taking the piss at each other and me just laughing at the things.
Yeah. I mean, wait till you see what I rate this film that we're covering.
It's interesting because this film first of all, I can't believe this film's 10 years old, right?
Yeah.
Can't believe it.
Yeah.
And I didn't realise it has quite a divisive reputation online because people either absolutely love it or people think it's mid. So it will be interesting to have a chat, guys.
Yeah. Before we get started though, Vito, do you want to do a quick introduction about who you are, what you're up to, and what's your relationship like with the horror genre?
Well, thank you very much, Gary. You are a stalwart of the film scene in Scotland, and I am but an ant in your afterbirth, so I feel terrible to even sit before you and give my resume, right, which is infinitesimal to yours. So my name is Vito Milazzo. In case you're listening, I do not look like a Serie A god from the 90s. I look like Frankie Boyle's Let Himself Go. I am a editor and director from Edinburgh. I work a lot in London and Glasgow. I've worked overseas as well. And I'll do some of the Kubrickian stuff on TV, real intellectual heft to my work, things like Celebs Go Dating, Homes Under the Hammer. I tell you, you look at my CV and you're like, this guy is the Scottish Michael Haneke. Now, I'll do all those things that your aunt loves when I'm doing TV work, but then when you do my short film work, it then becomes a different story. Because Steve and you and I were chatting about, because I was like moaning to you a few weeks ago on a shoot, how, I wasn't sure if I'd done a lot, and you were like, well, actually, I fucking loved this film you've done, I love that film you've done.
Yep.
And I know, Gary, at your time at GMAC, I know I actually ended up winning the big flick there, which I still think is a terrible name for a film awards show. So I hope they change that, right? I mean, I'm sorry. Let's not get into it. My work does tend to look at the dark side of life, and it tends to look at people who are stuck within their own systems, can't see beyond themselves. So one of my first shorts was called Writer's Block. It was about a writer who was, trying to cheer himself up effectively by writing a script, and his characters came to life, and then at the end you realise you've been following the wrong guy. Like he's so into this culture which is misogynistic and narcissistic that you actually realise you've been watching the bad guy. And then my next short film was called The Quiet, which was about a religious society which takes advantage of visiting aliens effectively, and they oppress everyone. But then at the end you realise that there's one woman that knows the secret to everything. And my work's done all right. I think we've done well on small to mid-range festivals. I think that then led me on to do a TV show called Playing the Game, which was about the old Hibs and Lokomotiv Moscow footballer Gary O'Connor, who had drug addiction and mental health issues. Great guy, Gary.
Yeah, that was good. I really enjoyed that.
Thanks, man. And I still thank Gary every day for kind of coming and sort of sitting down with me and giving me a lot of lawyer notes, to be honest. But no one's been sued from it, so we're good. So thanks to Gary for that. And then that's led me to direct other things. I'll do directing for predominantly football shows on TV, which is weird because I'm terrible at football. and given this season, I've got a season ticket to Easter Road, and as I say, Italy, I've just totally fucked it for the umpteenth time since 2010. I don't want anything to do with football, quite frankly. And then I do have, as I say, those two shorts that I've done, they're kind of horror thriller, with a bit of comedy in, and then The Quiet was more a straight dystopian horror. My next one will be another comedy horror, but I'm sure we'll get a chance to talk about that at some point. So I do have an odd relationship to the horror genre, guys, because I love it. I think it's fantastic. I think some of the best directors that have ever lived, they work in the horror genre. I do understand it's underrated to an extent.
Yeah.
Less so these days with people like Jordan Peele or Julia Ducournau over in France. But I like the I hesitate to say intellectual side of horror because it makes me sound like a total wanker. But it probably won't surprise you that maybe it's quite basic, but my favourite horror film is still The Shining.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I've ever mentioned that. I'd love to come and talk about that at some point.
In my previous podcast, Vito wanted to talk about The Shining and someone bet him to it, and we've still not done it for the horror cut yet.
Well, listen, here we go. Steve, you were in my house a couple of weeks back,
Yep.
and you were like, you were looking at that book that I've got, and you were like, oh my days. Right?
Yeah.
This is too much Shining for you. So listen, I love the horror genre, and I think just before we were coming on, I was kind of going a bit hard on Scary Movie, and I need you to know I'm not one of these guys that looks at anything that isn't elevated horror as less than. I just don't like shite films.
Which I guess brings us nicely to Train to Busan. Let's bring this film into the station.
Excellent. Oh, my man.
Here we go.
Right. So Vito, what is your relationship with Train to Busan? How many times have you seen it? What was it like the first time you watched it, and your most recent watch?
I tell you, Gary, my most recent watch was for this, and when you said Train to Busan, I was like, yes, because when it first came out, which was unbelievably 10 years ago, I watched it and I was like, this hits every mark that I would love a film to hit. It's intense. It's got a bit of social commentary going on. It's got an utterly sad ending. I think we can all agree. And then I watched it another time, I think around the time Peninsula came out, which is a kind of prequel sequel to Train to Busan, which I have to say I just didn't like. I thought
I've not seen it either. I've not seen it, but I've heard good things about it.
It's no a good film. I think it's worth watching. It's one of them films you watch and then you go, aye, all right. And then when I watched it again for this rewatch, I was kind of like, okay, this for me fits in a kind of unofficial South Korean trilogy of class-conscious films that include Snowpiercer and Parasite. And Train to Busan. I think because I'm older and I'm more aware of things like thematic heft in films, and I'm more aware of the world. Obviously, I'm more worldly than I was when I first watched Train to Busan, even though I'm in my 40s now. I've still got lots to learn, guys, as we do all. Yeah. Some of us need to learn about face cream, looking at you two. But I enjoyed it for all the right reasons. But as well, there were a few things I'm sure we'll touch on that I was quite critical of that I think could have been done better. But that's where I see it. I think if you were to watch a triple bill, a Snowpiercer, Train to Busan, and then Parasite, I think you'd be getting like a good insight, not only in the South Korean culture, but actually capitalist culture, which of course is a real infection in the world.
Yeah, nice, yeah.
And Sneg, what about yourself? What's your history with the film?
Yeah, I've probably seen it in about 2019, so maybe 3-4 years after it coming out. I watched it with my ex Liz, and over a bottle of wine, and I just remember being really taken aback by it. I was like, I wasn't expecting it to be so impactful and maybe emotional as well. Because you watch a zombie film, you don't tend to get that.
Yeah.
So I get a nice, pleasant surprise watching it, and I think it's probably up there with some of the best sort of zombie films that I've seen. And you need to have that emotional impact, I think, for the zombie genre to be classed as maybe a really, really good film. I think you need to have that. And like Vito was saying as well, the social commentary going through it as well. Some of the characters are just, I think the guy Sang-ho, the guy Ma Dong-suk, the actor, he's brilliant in this film. He's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. I mean,
definitely the breakout.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I hate to admit it, guys, this is the first time I've seen this film. One of the reasons being, I heard so many good things about it that I wanted to put it on and take my time with it and give it my full concentration. And I was actually hoping that it would have maybe came back out in cinemas to catch on a big screen. But lo and behold, Steg kept going on about it for the podcast, so I watched it on my 50-inch TV rather than a big screen, and here we are. But I really enjoyed it. I think it's saying some interesting things, and I think the effects are good. I think, some of the cinematography is great as well. Music. I think it's just a really, really solid film.
Mm-hmm.
I do think I was expecting more from it, so it was interesting, Vito, you were like, some people think it's alright, some people think it's amazing. I still think it's really, really good. I think because it took me so long to watch it, it was overhyped to me.
Yeah.
And that is maybe the problem. There's like, so many people told me to watch it, I was expecting more, but actually it's a film and it's still a really great film.
Mm-hmm.
What would you give it at 10, Gary?
I'll do that at the end, and we rate this 1 out of 5 now. I changed it.
All right. What would he be on your scale of 5?
3.5.
Fuck off, Gary! Oh, shambles! You're a terrible person.
Maybe I need to give it another go since Heat 2's on its way.
So it is.
Gary, I think you should retire from watching films.
Just retire from the industry in general.
Just retire from the industry, Gary. People are like, there's Gary. He used to like films until he watched Heat.
Maybe I'm just never allowed to turn on a television again.
Gary's unit, the Helen Keller of film watching.
So, Vito, usually what we do is we ask our guest to try and give a synopsis on the film in less than 30 seconds. Would you like to give it a go?
Father and daughter have a worse experience on trains than ScotRail.
Grand. I was actually thinking about that when I was watching it. I was thinking about ScotRail and how the fact, if ScotRail had an incident on the line, the train just stops and they force you to get on the next one. Whereas at least this one takes them all the way to Busan.
Yeah.
That's great customer service right there.
It absolutely is, because like at some point the conductor's like, right, should we stop here? They stop there, doesn't it go well? He's like, nah, we're not doing this.
Yeah.
Right, that conductor was just solid. He's like, what's happening? It was a bit panicked at times, as you would be with a zombie apocalypse, right? Unless you're like an absolute unit. like Sang-ho, who's like, what shall we do with this, lads? Punch it.
Yeah.
Conductor's like, what's happening? I'll keep going. Right, that's. I mean, in fairness, he's a train driver. If he had other options, he would be fucked.
But also, what it even gets to the point where they need to change trains, and he helps them do that. And that
he helps him. He does it.
He's committed.
Yeah.
He's like, my train stopped. What shall I do? Get another train. That man knows his lane. Right, doesn't stray from it, and it's like, do you know what? We need more people like him.
Yeah.
Right. I was chatting about this. It's like we need more boring people in society, particularly leaders in society. And I'm like, Ken, what? We need guys like that train driver.
Totally.
We need guys like that train driver. What shall I do now? I've got no banter, but I'll drive this train.
Yeah. And also, like, see if I was on my way to catch a train and I tripped, I don't think the train conductor or the train driver would get off the train to help me. And
service in this film.
Yeah. But it's best service.
Keep laughing.
Best service I've seen,
Absolutely is. Do you know what? I will say one thing. I didn't see a trolley service on train to Busan.
Yeah. That's true.
I didn't see that, no.
Do you get that?
I-
Do you get that in
I was
Busan?
taking marks off because I was like, do you know what? I do like my trains because I don't know if you've been to trains in Italy, right? Trains in Italy are amazing. So I was watching Train to Busan going, I've heard about these Korean trains, especially the high-speed ones that get you across the country and a few others. I'm not sure, boys. I need to see a trolley set. I mean, yeah, he got him at Busan, kinda, right? Did his thing, you know. People were saved, but come on, did I get a tea cake on the way? No.
Nah. Cost of living.
Cost of living.
Cost of living.
One Korea, sort it out.
부산으로 가는 KTX 406 열차가 곧 출발합니다.
저기요, 이상한 사람이 하나 타고 있는 것 같은데.
팀장님, 여기 11호차 응급 환자 발생했습니다.
뭐야? 수아, 너 여기 꼼짝하고 잠깐 있어? 아무도 없어.
알려줘 제발.
I guess we should go on and talk about the film in a bit more detail. Vito, we'll open it to you first. What's your first point in the film? What would you like to talk about first?
Well, as I say, it's like I think when I was watching it when it first came out, I was like, oh, this is cool, man. It's like, you know, zombies and shit, right? But now I was actually taken by like the social commentary in it, and I think that, you know, a lot of people say, well, it's quite basic social commentary. Like you've got, you know, your white collar versus blue collar heroes. You've got your mayor from Jaws character. He's there, right?
That's actually one of my notes. Is the COO wanker is Mayor Vaughn from Jaws. That's one of my notes.
Yeon Sang-ho. Listen, I need to just take a diversion here, right? I'm no one for the way the mayor for Jaws handled things, right? Until you figure out that all takes place in a day between like a Wayne being eaten and him going, right, let's hire Quinn. That's a day, and that's enough to get the evidence. Right? If like some weird guy comes down to me from Harvard or wherever he's from, Dartmouth, and he's like, I had a sharp tooth, but I lost it. I'm like, all right then, great, right. As soon as the Wayne gets eaten, he's like, fucking all right, boys, right, get out there. That's within a day, and that's why he's still the mayor in Jaws too.
Fair.
Fair, that's actually fair, yeah.
Sorted that shit right out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, anyway, moving on. Obviously, he didn't sort out as much as Chief Brody, who was like, you might have a problem here. And it's like, listen, just go swimming, I'll be fine. We're not here to talk about Jaws, like the best film of Spielberg's career.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The one with the lowest body count, because Steven Spielberg was mad about World War II, and that does bump his numbers up a bit, but still Jaws is good. So, in terms of Train to Busan, yeah, the Mayor for Jaws character, what a prick.
Yeah,
What
totally.
Because the thing is, and this leads me back to what I was saying in social commentary, in my notes I was kind of like, he is one of these guys that starts off by having a point, because he's like, well, maybe we shouldn't let them in if they're infected, or maybe we should get to that station. And then by the end of it, you see that he's not making these points for the greater good. He's making these points for self-preservation. And when he literally starts throwing people, so he throws a service worker, like the conductor, in front of the zombies. He throws a teenage girl in front of the zombies. And then you don't see it clearly, but I don't think he throws the conductor in front. I think it's a tripping situation, but he definitely leaves him behind.
Yeah.
You know, and I was like watching it. I was like, this guy's definitely in a managerial position, because he's not taking responsibility and he's letting other people take the hits.
Yeah.
And once you work backwards, it's like that then becomes where your social commentary in the film, because obviously when Suk Woo like sits with his daughter, you know, and he says to her, let me just get my notes here. He says to her, he says, look, at a time like this, you only watch out for yourself. Like, he literally says that to his daughter.
Yeah.
You know, that's like, okay, this guy's in, he's well into the capitalism thing. You know, at the start, he's already pulled funding from somewhere that needs it. And obviously later on in the film, you find out how that's essential and what's going on, you know. And then when his daughter sort of turns to him later in the film, it says, look, you only care about yourself, and that's why mummy left. You know, that's when he starts to sort of lose belief in his mission, you know, which is to like just earn as much money as possible. And that's when he kind of comes over to learning that he needs to work with Sang-ho, who just wants to protect his wife, obviously, but who also wants to protect Soo-an, the daughter. And he's like, okay, well, I need to do this as well. And we all need to work together regardless of like our class station, you know? And again, it's held together by the fact that like Yeon Suk is such a fucking cock man in this movie for no reason at all. When he throws that teenage girl in front of the zombie instead of just closing the doors, I was like, what a prick, man.
But
I think that helps you. Sorry, Gary, that helps you sort of get past any plot holes in the film, because once you start understanding it on a thematic level, you're like, okay, well, that's why that person's acting like that. And I think that's what the film's good at. It works at such a frantic pace that when you do get to the post-film experience of thinking about sections that didn't sit right with you while you were watching it, but you couldn't take that in at the time, then you say, well, that's why this person acted like that. And I think that's what I loved about the film, was like on a thematic level. And I don't know how I missed it the first time around, because like, you know, Sang-ho is like, he's just hostile at the very start to Suk-woo. You know, all right for the door incident when like they keep the doors behind, you know, but for the rest of the film, he never calls him by his name. He just calls him asshole.
Yeah.
That, and that's a very like class struggle kind of thing. You know, so it's always been like front and center. But this time around watching it, I was like, actually, this is, you know, not as thematically dense as like Parasite, but certainly more so than Snowpiercer. Which itself's a banger Korean train movie. Yeah.
What I would say is, I think the Yeon Suk, the character, the COO wanker, he is kind of like that from the start though, because the first time he's introduced, I could tell that it's just about him, because he's telling the train driver or the conductor that Busan is quarantined and it's not as like safe as what people are thinking, but he's not wanting to let the rest of the train know that, you know, because then it's going to be harder for him to stay safe. But I do think thematically it is all kind of on the nose, the class system, but I still like it. But, you know, even I think not like putting work before your family is part of that as well, with like the white collar folk. So even in the first scene, we have Gong Yu talking about the stocks falling, and like he's not caring about that. He's just like, I just sell it, doesn't matter. And then he asks, I think it's his assistant, what do kids like nowadays? So he's really no clue about family and his child. And then he buys her this expensive console, thinking it's expensive, it'll work, and she's already got it. So it kind of says to me that he's done this before, right? And a lot of 90s films have done that. You know, it's a lot of 90s films have this theme of, you know, this, you know, working dad, career-driven dad has to learn to put his family first, and this is kind of doing the same. You know, you've got Liar Liar, The Santa Claus, Jingle All the Way, all these kind of probably shite films that Vito doesn't like. But even their house at the start, I noticed in their house it says a lot about like the class system and family, because it's a rich house, but it's expensive, but it's kind of cold and clinical. But Soo-an, his daughter's room, is warm and cozy and decorated and inviting, and that's probably, you know, maybe taken from her mum's personality, which gives you this idea that maybe, you know, during the divorce or the separation between them, because we see on his phone it's ex-wife, that maybe there's a little bit of a class system between the two of them as well.
That's a Korean thing as well. It's big in Korea to like get married. It's a big social kind of thing. So the shame of like being divorced, because he doesn't really acknowledge it through the film, you know, that he's like divorced, and the mum. That's one thing I couldn't get. It's like, does the mum think that they're working it through? Because like you say, there is references to being an ex-wife, you know, and so he's not bothered to tell his mum that he's like divorced.
Yeah,
you know. So that's interesting. You picked up on all that, man.
Yeah, there's also like the train itself is kind of like a metaphor. So, you know, they spot the homeless man hiding in the train toilet, and the conductor says to Soo-an, you know, if you don't study or pass your exams, you'll be just like him. And then the film, obviously a train's got a lot of doors, and I get that, and they're going to be used as part of the plot, but I think the doors could be like a metaphor for like class system and, you know, opening doors for each other. Like, you know, us as artists, for instance, you know, we find a lot of like working class artists find a lot of doors closed in their face or struggle to get doors open. And I think, yeah, you know, when Ma Dong-suk is running for the door and Gong-yoo closes it and then has a decision to open it again, you know, he's basically closing the door, as you said, Vito, on like, you know, blue collar working class folk. When the infection breaks out and they end up at the airport, it's Ma Dong-suk that keeps the door open for him. He returns and actually keeps the door open for him, saves his kid. If you take the doors metaphor and then the COO wanker later on, he keeps the doors closed on these people, and then eventually when they break through the door, he punches them, and he's like, why did you keep that closed? And I think the reason he punches him is he sees the man that he could become.
Yeah, totally.
And he's starting to feel sick about himself, you know. And it's roughly the 51-minute mark, because I paused it when it happened, where Gong Yu's character helps Ma Dong-suk onto the train. 51 minutes. It's pretty much the midpoint, and that's when the teams start to learn to work together to, you know, get the victims out the toilet, etc., like that. But it's right in the midpoint is when he changes his ways.
Yeah, like you said there about the, you know, this is who he could become, because Yeon Suk is that, if you keep doing life the way you're doing it, this is who you're going to be. But then you've got that counter in Sang-hwa where it's like, this is who you want to become. Like, this is someone that you should be kind of looking up to, especially with having a child. Sang-hwa's clearly a protector with he's very protective with his pregnant wife. But it's what I found was quite interesting was the amount of times that Suk-woo leaves his daughter when this is all going on. He leaves her in different cabins. He's almost not looking after her. Even as well when they got off the train, it's like what are you doing? There's so many times he leaves her. Sang-ha has to either maybe save her or whatever. He's just all over the place. And yeah, like you said, when he comes out and he punches Yeon Suk, it's like that's his sort of turning point, because it's interesting because I think Suk-woo could have been potentially, he could have done the same thing maybe earlier in the film, started to quarantine off and try and self preserve. He definitely has that in him. Yeah. You know,
and it's interesting then that we follow, you know, almost that he's kind of like an unlikable character at the start, but we need to find him compelling with his daughter to root for him, and I think the film deliberately makes that a fine line. And I think maybe at points where you're not actually rooting for him, you're rooting for his daughter.
Oh yeah.
You know, and he kind of comes with that. Because I guess we could speak about, just when we're on the kind of class system, the homeless man, right, as well.
It doesn't have a name, by the way.
Yeah.
In the whole film, like I checked his like credit listing, homeless man, which is like I think it's ridiculous in the filmmakers part. I call him Trevor or something.
But is it maybe saying something there that, you know, like these other characters look at him as so beneath them that they wouldn't even ask him his name, you know, because he's treated like shit, but yet he's the one that saves a lot of the characters right up until the end, and, you know, he puts himself in danger quite a lot, and he's never really thanked, because see, even at the end when he sacrifices himself, you'd think you'd get a thank you before they leave and escape out that wee hole at the end of the trains and stuff, and I think it's part of it not giving him a name.
I think there's a lot about where the pregnant woman, she does kind of look at him. She, you know, they have that sort of look, which is like that nod to, like, you know. But yeah, there's no dialogue there. There could have been something.
Yeah,
there,
I think it's missing it. Yeah,
because he's just
maybe that's like a western beat that you didn't need, like a western cinema beat, or like a Clint Eastwood, John Wayne beat.
Yeah,
you know.
Maybe
it's like these, because there are a few looks, and that's what I liked about the film is, like, yes, you can look at it on like the thematic level, and as I say, I appreciated it a bit more than I did when I first watched it on that level. But it's so frantic and it's so pacey that actually, realistically, or as realistically as you can get in a zombie film, you know, for a film that's grounded in real world rules, it's like you wouldn't be like, "Thank you, Chuck Norris," and then, like, you know, you'd be like, right, let's get fucking out of here, you know. So the fact that they did have a look, and the actor's name's Choi Gui-hwa, who plays the homeless man. And like I say, I did stop the film for a few minutes ago. Has this guy got a name? And no, it's just homeless man. You know,
That is
and
interesting.
at least he gets his like hero moment.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
that for me was like quite an unsettling image. Is just the glass breaking and just them all cascading down on top of him.
Yeah, it was great.
You know, that was like a great image. You know, and I think that thank God he got that image, because you'd probably forget he was in the film. And again, I think it is just something simple, like he didn't even have a name. But again, that's probably a criticism kind of thing we can get back to.
Yeah, it's interesting because he arrives in the train at the start and he's like, they're all dead or they're all infected. I can't remember quite what he says, but he lets people know, he warns them. Yes, he's a bit scatterbrained as he does it, but I thought he was going to kind of know more about the infection at this point. I thought he was going to, like, you know, tell us where it came from or like where it started, because it felt like he was thrown on that train for a reason, but actually he's just almost another victim who's jumped on the train to hide, to escape it.
Yeah, you know what? I thought that as well, and then he just became like a very tertiary character.
Yeah,
through the whole thing. But I think maybe that's like an inadvertent, as in I don't think it was meant red herring, because then 3/4 of the way through the film, you know, like Suk-woo decides to make a call and then finds out where the real cause has come from, which again is like a capitalist critique, because actually the leak coming from was it a chemical factory or was it a weapons factory? The leak has come because he's basically underfunded it through his shares action, you know. And I did like as well the way that it's like you didn't know what was going on, you know, or the speed of things, because you get that great shot of the deer at the very start when the deer comes back to life. But you're in Xinjiang, which is in the southwest Korea, southwest, and then suddenly you're in Seoul, and then they have to get back down to like Busan. So it creates this kind of like feeling that everything's going fast and it's quite chaotic, because you've just been in the southwest, you're now up in the northwest, now you need to get down to the southeast of a country. You know, so the fact that like you're getting information coming in from all places, predominantly from phones, I thought that was like really interesting. So I do think that the homeless guy is kind of like a sort of red herring there.
Yeah.
You know, perhaps as well that you're thinking of the gentleman in Snowpiercer, who, you know, aesthetically has got the same look, that kind of like really like overgrown hair sort of thing, almost like a Beatles mop top that's been grown too far, you know, and that amazing facial hair. So maybe you're thinking, because that's the role that person played in Snowpiercer.
I can assure you I'm not, because I've not seen Snowpiercer, so you can shout at me for that as well.
What, Gary, what is the point of you? Right, we're doing a South Korean film about trains.
I know.
Right, a very niche genre, and you've not seen the other film in that genre.
I know. I mean, I think this is closer to like Snakes on a Plane, though, right? I'm joking.
That's because you only watch shite films. If you're listening, by the way, Gary and I have got great respect for each other.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And this all stems from the fact I think he's racist for wording an Italian film 6 out of 10.
You said something earlier about the relationship with Sang and Suk, and he says, I think it was maybe a few minutes before he, you know, sacrifices himself, but he says to Suk, he goes, you're a fund manager, right?
Oh,
and he's like, you're used to leaving people behind.
It's even worse. You're a fund manager. You're used to leaving useless people behind.
Useless people behind.
Aye.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I love that bit, because there's a section 2 minutes later where it's overly expository. But this bit is great because he just says, like, we need to stick together. You're a fund manager. You're used to leaving useless people behind. And you know, probably because you know the rules of zombie movies and horror movies in general, it's like, right, if someone gets bitten, that's it. We just need to like go forward, right? Kill them, hopefully.
Yeah.
Go forward. But then there's another bit where they figure out that actually the zombies react to light and sound when they move through the tunnel. And then later, right that bit, Sang-ho just goes, "Oh, they react to light and sound, eh?" And the baseball kid's like, "Aye," and you're like, "Aye, all right." You know that's like an exec note. That's
Yeah,
like an exec
it was
note.
so.
What happened there?
It wasn't even there. It was at the start, right, when the zombies first come onto the train, and they're all like slamming on the glass. He turns round and he says that they're trying to attack us because they can see us, and then they newspaper up the window.
Newspaper,
right?
Yeah.
And I was like, how does he know that? Like I think that's the exact note, right? That's it there, and then later on when the train goes dark in the tunnel, it kind of makes sense because they stop attacking. So it makes sense at that point to go, it's because they can't see us. So that one I don't mind as much, but it's the first one. I'm just like, as soon as it happened on screen, I went, how does he know that? I wrote it down.
And you do, it's for people that are wondering, like, you do get these exec notes in film and TV. Like I remember getting in touch on Twitter, if you remember Twitter, with Stephen E. D'Souza, who wrote Die Hard, and he was doing like a Q&A thing, and I was like, total film wanker. I was like, oh, in Die Hard, Hans says to Carl, she's den Fenster, and he says it again, but then he has to repeat it in English. Is that because Carl's from a different part of Germany, and so the regional dialect is different? And Stephen E. D'Souza was like, no, it's because the execs thought the audience is dumb.
Yeah.
Right, and like you do get those notes, man. And I know that they're in the news just now because about 6 months ago it came out that Netflix are asking people to kind of have their characters just, you know, re-examine the plot every 5 minutes. And I think for the recent film The Rip, like Matt Damon explicitly said so. He's like, look, we're getting notes. Us as Oscar-winning screenwriters are getting notes saying, okay, just repeat that, please, for people looking at their phones.
Yeah.
And I think this is like, I wouldn't say an early example of this because Netflix had been going a few years by the time Busan was released. But it was one of these moments where you're like, how can you say something that doesn't need followed up on, like, you know, you're used to leaving useless people behind, you know?
Yeah.
Not an overly subtle note, but it's one that has an echo that, you know, gives the implication. And then be like, oh, can you see us? What?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, you fucking know this. Because your wife did that paper thing, which was quite smart.
Yeah.
There are holes through the film. I'm like, why does no one just hold their jacket up to them? The zombies at like eye level, because someone does that. And the other one I wrote down is like, if they are so attracted to light and noise, why doesn't someone just open up a side door while the train's moving and just let them all go?
Yeah. Or like tape the phone just to the door frame, and then play the ringtone, and then they'll all run towards the door, like you're saying.
Exactly, like in that deleted scene for Alien. That's what they do, where they get the alien to the door and then go, right, press the button, but spoiler, someone isn't what they see.
Yeah, yes. Let's talk about the infection then a little bit more. So, do we think it is just, I might have missed it because it is my first time watching, but is it alluded to that it is just a chemical spill, or could it be a bioweapon? Do we know about the company? Do we know enough about that?
I think that it does say right at the top, you're kind of told, oh, it's like a chemical leak, and I think the guy in the truck's like, oh, come on, eh? And then the deer thing happens, which I thought was like, what a dick, just leaving a deer in the middle of the road.
Yeah.
But then obviously you get that like really weird bit where the deer comes back to life.
Great.
Yeah, really nice, eerie. And then you get the bit at the start where like Sukubu's like looking on his portfolio, or he's going to look at his portfolio, and there's just a glimpse of a web page saying there's been like an instant at a reservoir and all the fish are down, all the fish have got like the same eyes.
Yeah, I've seen that.
And then I think like later on you do get it sort of seen as like a chemical kind of leak, you know. I don't know how it affects. I don't know how it first affected people. I can't remember if that's addressed in Peninsula.
Right.
Yeah, maybe.
Like, it's such a perfunctory film. I can't be bothered watching it again.
But I do. And then the idea is that his company had shares in the company, the chemical company, and by pulling their shares, health and safety's went out the window, and then that's basically how it's got there. Yeah.
I think that's what you. That's what you're led to believe, like, you know, because they've got the kind of thing where he realizes he's like, I've pulled the funding effectively from this company, and then he effectively says, you know, or his co-worker says, well, have we done this? Have I done this?
Yep.
But you know, and then it's inferred he kind of goes away and he's overly emotional, the co-worker, because it's obviously like a great tragedy in South Korean culture to fuck up at your job.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's what you're kind of led to believe is at the end that's part of Sukubu's sacrifice as well. Is, you know, I don't think it's explicit he feels guilt about it, but he certainly feels some form of responsibility to make the world a better place for his daughter.
It's a crushing scene, that
I
as
don't know why
well.
you have to cover a zombie's mouth with your hand, but you know,
I know.
Yeah.
I thought that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've got in my notes, it's down as a biotech/chemical leak tied to corporate negligence, which, as we see, is actually related to Suku's actions with the hedge fund.
Yeah, nice. And I do think it's a great invention of the fact that, like, the zombies can't see when it goes dark. That's doing something new with the formula. That kind of excited me a little bit. I do think, though, when they battle through the zombies to reach the toilets, I don't know if I believed that they would have got through them all before they hit a tunnel. Like, when the tunnel thing happened, I thought that was a nice twist, but the way they set themselves up, like, freedom to go through 50 zombies, I was like, I don't know how much I believe.
See, when you've got Madong there, you can do anything.
Wait, sorry, say that again?
Madong?
We've all heard about your fault,
That man just wants to fight. He's just up for it. He's just like wrapping his wrists, just like, let's go. This is the only way through. Let's go. Let's what we do.
To stop getting bitten on them. I'm like, well, can you wrap your
hands?
Like, aye, because the baseball guy's got like all the ties as well. So
yeah.
They're like a spa. I'm not going to argue with that boy. He's a fucking unit.
Yeah.
Like, what does he do for? Does he say what he does for a job in the film? Is it just inferred he's generally working class?
I don't think it's.
I don't think it's ever. I don't think it's ever alluded to, is it?
No. But I always think when I watch zombie films, I would just wear a really thick leather jacket. And because how easy it's. I look cool, and then how easy they're going to bite through it. So I like the idea that they do wrap up their arms and things.
Ahead though. These guys are on a train.
You can't just walk about all the time like a zombie outbreak's about to start, because you'll sweat.
I know.
You need to get good information first. You need to be prepared. It's like, right, I'm going to go to like cancer research in Hindland. They'll definitely have some leather jackets about. Ken, what they're like up there, right? You're stuck on holiday. You're like, where am I going to go? Well, no, to Busan.
Yeah.
If I remember, though, I don't know if I remember it correctly, but Peninsula infers the safest place in Korea is North Korea, because they don't give a fuck. They'll not let anything in.
I was going to say something else there. Yeah, I live next to a cemetery, so I'm already fucked, basically.
You're fucked, aye.
Yeah, you're totally fucked.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. I've got to say, Gary, like, I think you'd be fine in a zombie outbreak. You've watched enough movies that you can what to do.
Cheers.
And that's it. It's people like Stevie Kerr that think they can rely on their athleticism and that are arrogant about it. It's like, no, listen, you've not taken this in. You can't just throw juggling balls at zombies.
Still vaping.
On his unicycle. Stevie, didn't juggle fire. They're attracted to it.
Just when we're talking about the zombies there as well, let's kind of talk about the ending and when Suk-woo is bitten, and then he starts, just before he turns, he starts to have like flashes of his daughter kind of being born, or at least very young. And I kind of like this idea as well, if maybe, people have said that, like, in real life, when they die, they see a white light, and this was kind of like his white light. It's like the light at the end of the tunnel, tunnels and trains, and he sees his baby, and then I was like, is this kind of like a little bit of happiness before the darkness kicks in? Like, I kind of like that idea, because you've got Madong, who also saves his wife, his pregnant wife as well.
I mean,
and he's
referring him by the actor's name, and it's causing even a lot of issues.
Yeah.
So,
Sang-hwa. Okay.
Do you know what? The reason I'm doing that is because the actors' names seem easier to pronounce when I'm looking on the credit list than the actual character names.
Let's just go with Sang-hwa.
Sang-hwa, and it was funny because when I was writing up my notes, I mistakenly thought Madong was his name in the film, and I was writing it down, being like, all right, and then when I got here, I was like, oh shit, Sang-hwa.
Like it's Sang-hwa. Let's just say Sang-hwa, because I feel, listen, Steven's just like, he's sitting there laughing, and I'm like, right, I can't do this. We need to take this film seriously. A lot of people died in this film, and we need to protect the memory.
But yes, what do you think of this kind of like, maybe like, they do get a bit of like happiness or a memory before it as well?
Yeah,
I think.
I think it's like the whole thing of like your life flashing before your eyes sort of thing, and it's like, his life and his view has been the happiest moments of his life has been when his daughter was born, and it's like, it's sad because it's like he spent the last, however, maybe 6-7 years not being present, not being there when she needs him, and it's that sort of realization for him. But it's a bittersweet ending because it's like he is smiling there, and you're like, oh, this is beautiful. And you get the piano music playing behind it. It's just like, and that shot of him literally with the eyes changing, and he's just like happy. Oh man, it's It's like, because it's in contrast to that, it's the bit where he does sort of decide I'm leaving her, and he tries to like lock her in the room with the pregnant woman, the cabin, and the way she's screaming, just like, 'cause she knows that her dad is obviously going to do what he's going to do. So it's a nice sort of
it's heartbreaking.
It's heartbreaking, yeah.
Listen, that wee lassie was good. Who plays Sue-Ann?
She's great, isn't she?
Oh man, see at the end when she's like singing the song, I was having a moment.
Oh, me as well.
It's Aloha, which is like a Hawaiian song, and you'll know the melody when you hear it. I'm not going to sing for you because I can't sing. But it means fare thee well. So obviously we can see what's happening with that. But she was great through like the whole thing. It's like when she's like crying for like her dad, and like I said, when she turns to her dad like earlier on, and she's just like, "This is my mummy left," and you're like, "Oh my god." And just when like she goes, "Daddy," like near the end, I was like, "Oh man!" Like, I hate when they get good child actors.
Yeah. Well,
you just get shite child actors like half a Euphoria.
See, it's interesting when you said at the start, like, about seeing the film initially and now watching it. Is that maybe because you're picking up more of this stuff because you're a father now? Is there something in that that's...
Definitely, I think. Listen, I've just watched some. I've made some terrible choices, films to watch and media to consume since I've been a dad. I remember, like, I think the first thing I watched after my wee man was born, literally a week after he was born, was the Chris Benoit documentary on just terrible. I can't listen to the song "Tears in Heaven" by Eric Clapton. I'm like, fucking no, get that off, right? Yeah. Any version. And my mate was like, I've got tickets to Hamnet. I'm like, fucking Hamnet, I'm not going to watch that. Like trying to be all like, no, I don't like Chloe Zhao's aesthetic, and I think it's quite false and pretentious. And when really I'm like, I'm not watching anything about a Wayne dying. It's not happening. So I was very much
spoilers for Hamnet.
But everyone knows that though, right?
Yeah.
Knows that. Listen, you didn't just win a Best Actor Oscar just because your husband's William Shakespeare. Some shit's going to go down.
Yeah.
Because it's the 1600s, it's going to be dysentery or whatever the fuck, right? But anyway, so watching like Sue-Ann through the whole film, I was just like, I couldn't gel this time round with what, because like you're saying, watching it in the start 10 years ago before I'm a dad, I'm like, oh, he's that guy. And now I'm like, I would never be that guy. Like I would die for my Wayne, And all the while I'm like fucking judging him. And I was more on the Sang-Hwa's side this time around because he kind of knew it, and he was kind of looking at the corner of his eye in Suk-woo and just thinking, I'm not going to be like that. I'm going to be like this, right down to like some of the bad jokes he was making in front of Sue-Ann. She's like, "Oh, your wife's pregnant." He's like, "I did that." Trying that like male bravado thing, which like Sung Kyung, his wife's like, "Shut up."
Yeah.
And there was no warmth there. It was like that with Suk-woo's relationship with his daughter. It was more just like, "Oh, I'll have to take you to Busan." Even at the start, when he's on the train, he's so into his work. He's like, "I'll be back in the office at lunchtime." It's like you're going this end of the country, the next end of the country. Like, by the way, that's usually a 2-hour train ride, right? It's like it's one of the fastest trains in the world.
10 hours if ScotRail were doing it.
10 hours of ScotRail were doing it, right? Like, and they'd still get it wrong.
Yeah.
You fell asleep, you wake up in Pyongyang. And you're like, what? Hi, Mum, I'll be back in 30 years. Right? But but I think being a dad, I'm just a sucker for like these kind of narratives, Stephen. And you're totally right. I was judging Suk-woo from the fucking top of the film. I'm like, you wanker! First of all, you've killed all those fish, right? I know you've done, right? You're eating Burger King, you fucking loser, right? All right, and then eventually buys his daughter 2 V's. It's like, first of all, who's rich enough to afford 2 Wiis in 2016? You know, more money than sense, son. So I think I did watch it through not just the social commentary prism, but definitely the judgmental dad prism.
Yeah.
You know, like to be honest, I wouldn't be like Sang-hwa either, but just because I wouldn't spend that amount of time in the gym.
Yeah.
So I'm not taking sides here. I definitely wouldn't be like Yeon Suk, who was just utter cock-end from start to finish.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting thing. But Sang-hwa he's obviously a strong. But he's not the kind of athletic type. He's just like he almost seems like a working class sort of, maybe like a joiner or something.
Yeah,
just
he does some
somebody
heavy
that's
lifting.
he does some heavy lifting, but he's like, what he's got is just what he's been sort of given. He's not really worked for it, and maybe that is just saying something about how he's just like a sort of regular, humble, down to earth protector in all aspects. There's even a scene where when they're going through the tunnels, and I think when they get to the room when it's all the baseball kids, and he knows right away that guy he's the other baseball guy,
Min Young Gook.
He knows right away he's going to have a problem doing this.
Yep.
And he steps in front right away. It's just like instinct to this guy. And right enough, that guy does. He sort of steps back and watches his mates, who have obviously turned, get, the treatment.
Yeah. I would sorry.
Yeah, and that was interesting. It's like I did get that the two older guys were like, okay, we know what's going on here, and it was annoying because it's like I think if there are moments in the film where like you're like, okay, well this is a horror film, so that character has to act like that in order for this to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But then it did lead to that like great twist where just when you think that like Suk-woo and Sang-hwa are done for, you get like the lights going out in the tunnel. And it kind of gets you where you need to be. And then it gives, like, baseball kid, I forget his name, but it gives him, like, the courage to go on.
Min Young.
Yeah. That's what I said.
You did, aye.
Yeah. So I'm with you, man. It's like, I think you're not giving his job, but definitely Sang-hwa's, like, he is coded as working class. One, because his adversarial nature to Suk-woo, who isn't coded really as upper class. He's coded as, like, more middle class, who's, like, earned it and doesn't feel the need to go back, not pull the ladder up behind them, but certainly doesn't need to check that anyone's following,
Yeah.
Yes. But Sang-hwa, he's a guy that's like, he takes initiative, without waiting for like the social hierarchy to preserve itself. He protects strangers just because it's the right thing to do.
Yep.
And he understands like physical risk and teamwork. So like that, I think that's where he's like coded as working class. Like you don't know what he does. Like Yeon Suk's very much like, I'm a CEO. You know already that Suk-woo is like a fund manager. But you don't know what Sang-hwa does, which I think maybe you could be critical about. But then again, if like the filmmakers were like, okay, this guy's a joiner, this guy's like a construction worker, etc., then that in some way would be judgmental. So like, well, this guy's just from a working class background. He may not be. Certainly the way he's dressed, he's got some good threads.
Mm-hmm.
Let's be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's wrong to say that we've all got a wee man crush on the boy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
certainly fills out a t-shirt. So you could say that in a way maybe he's come up like Suk-woo has, but he's kind of maintained like who he was and where he came from better.
Yeah, I would also say if they gave him a job for the sake of it, you're going to think it's going to tie into the story some way. Like, if he worked in construction, he would build something to help defend them. So you'd be like, this is why they're telling us. Yeah. And by keeping it just kind of blue collar and not giving him a job title, more people might relate to the character because he's all of us.
He's all of us, yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong, if there's a deleted scene where it turns out him and his wife need to take the train because they missed the plane to Epstein Island, they've totally read this movie wrong.
That's
totally read this all wrong.
That's the 2 episodes in a row that Epstein has been mentioned.
I did mention it. Yeah.
What the financier Jeff Epstein?
Aye.
Yeah, finance guy.
Finance dude, aye.
What was I going to say there? Just when we were talking about the tunnels and stuff, I did like the idea of them using basically their version of Google Maps to see when the next tunnel would be. Like I did like that, so that they were timing it. Like I thought that was really, really clever. However, what I didn't think was clever was them hiding in the toilet and having a full-scale loud conversation and cracking jokes when the zombies are right outside, and now the zombies aren't using their eyes, all they're using is their ears.
Aye. Like, I like that as well. It's like, I did like the three guys just like crammed in. Like, they're all, like, two of them, like, didn't like each other. The boy in the middle's like, just wondering if he's going to get laid again. Like, you know? And it's the comedy was quite good because it's quite awkward. Like I say, that's when like Sang-hwa's like you're like, oh, are they cool now? He's like, hey, asshole.
Hey, asshole.
Yeah.
They're not going to be doing Christmas with each other. Eh?
No.
You know, there were like little plot things I didn't like as well, Gary. I think if I can springboard on what you're saying, I don't know if you agree. It's like there's Ian Gill and John Gill. They're the two sisters.
Sisters, yeah.
Now, number one, you didn't know until at least 45 minutes in that they're sisters, right?
I thought they were lesbians at one point.
Did you?
Like, first of all, I thought they were just two friends on a wee day out, and then they started to get really attached with Worry, and I felt, oh, that's more like love. And obviously, then it was revealed it was sisters. But when it felt like loving relationship, I thought they were a couple, and I thought that was actually quite contemporary.
I thought it was because one of them has got quite a terrible wig on, and is clearly younger than the other. I thought it was like a mum and daughter going out.
I actually at one point thought that they were like the youngest grannies ever. I thought they were like a couple of grannies in a day out, like something at a still game for our Scottish listeners.
I know. I was at that last set is clearly the same age as me. She's just wearing like a dead granny's hair.
Yeah.
Right. And I was like, the other one just probably hasn't done her makeup that day. Like, someone's lying about their age and they're lying the wrong way. This is weird. This must be a cultural thing, right? But I was watching it and I was like, again, I've just said it there. In some horror movies, you need some characters to do stupid things, right? Mm-hmm. And in this one, it's when one sister gets zombified and the other one decides to be like, well, fuck it, I'm going to open the door and be with her for the rest of whatever. And I know in a South Korean perspective that's how the elderly are treated. Like within the capitalist rush that came into South Korea, the elderly, who you could define as being post-work, then essentially became one of the useless people that Sang-hwa kind of talks about. And you can see why she's not really wanting to stay within this like microcosm of society. You know, she realises that she's just with some selfish wanker, so that's why she I was still annoyed as fuck because I'm like, well, I know you need to get rid of a lot of the cast right now, but is this the way you could have done it? But again, like on a thematic level, I was kind of better with it than I was on the first time round.
Yeah, for me, I take a slightly different reading from it. I take it as these people who she's in the carriage with are absolute scum and don't deserve to live because they've pushed the other ones out into the following kind of one. So I think she's almost sacrificing herself to get rid of these arseholes. Like, if she was still with like Sang-hwa and those characters, I don't think she's opening that door.
No, she's not.
I think it's more about, it's a slightly different reading. I guess you could still call it selfish because the zombies are one step closer to our main characters. So you still kind of put them in danger, I guess, that way. Some of the kind of set pieces were quite cool with the zombies as well, like when Sang-hwa does get bitten, how the camera's shooting down at the zombie and it almost like slides up the door, like its head slides up the door and bites him. That was pretty
really good
cool.
Practical effects as well as like, so, I mean, they're a bit dated now because, as I say, we're 10 years down the line, but like just generally good effects that are quite well deployed.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
Like that one, that I hated that bit because you were like, the big man's going to make noise, man.
Yeah,
you know, because he is like your favourite character in the film because he's obviously just. I mean, you could argue that it's a bit easy writing. It's like there's this guy who's like noble, you know, and he just happens to be like the big man. And you could also argue from a cynical point of view, well, with what's coming up, we need the big man out of the way because he would just make mincemeat like Yeon Sang-ho, for instance, at the end, right?
Yeah.
You know, and also you could say, well, it's not his film, so cheerio, right?
Yeah.
So I think for myself, man, I'm glad that you mentioned that moment because, like, I remember watching it the first time and just going, no!
Yeah.
You know, it kind of, a bit like I did with a similar character in a zombie film was when Brendan Gleeson gets it in 28. Spoiler for 28 Days. Spoiler for a 26-year-old film.
Yeah.
But when Brendan Gleeson gets it in 28 Days Later, I remember being at the McRobert Arts Centre in Stirling watching it. It's where I went to uni. And as soon as that crow or whatever just drops that drop of blood into his eye, someone went, "No, man! No!" And I felt it when Sang-ho went. I'm like, "Oh, no, the big guy." You know, because he'd just been taking care of shit till then. And like you say, like, you know, the way that the zombie just out of nowhere just makes this quite a natural movement. But because you've already kind of seen them move that way through the whole film, I think when the first conductor, when she's bitten, she kind of makes that movement where like her head's at a right angle to her body, but then she manages to like still tilt it up.
Yeah.
You know, so it was like a surprise. And I love the computer effects, like they were, as I say, dated a little bit. But they were just well used, you know, like for instance, is that bit at the start of the film where, you know, there's that montage, or when it's all kicking off, this is like 25 minutes in, there's that like montage of the government going, "Listen, stay calm, everything's all right, and then you've got these like wide shots of the city with like explosions going off.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, it was definitely a film that like had an effects budget, but clearly knew what they wanted to do with it, you know, which, you know, might not be the case. If anyone's listening that did work on Train to Busan, first of all, well done for understanding Scottish accents. And, you know, number two, tell us if I'm wrong.
Yeah, if you can understand it.
If you understand it, you know. And I think that, like, the movement of the zombies, like, the way they were, like, choreographed was just, like, really nice. You've got, like, that fast zombie thing, and people say, well, that's a 28 Days Later thing. It's like, I think it's more a World War Z thing.
Yeah.
You know, a World War Z, however you want to say it. You know, it's like that kind of, like, jerky movement, but just completely focused and feral kind of thing. You know, there's a bit where like the homeless guy in Sukwan are they're behind like one of the chairs in the carriages, and Sukru, sorry, he's like 1, 2, 3, and then the homeless guy just stands on that Fanta can, and you're like, oh fuck, man. And that zombie's reaction is like just amazing. He's like, straight on it, and the film does that all the way through, where it's like you get quite loud.
Yeah.
And it's just really well done. And the bit I liked was when they're in Dujon Station, which is their first stop, and they're like, it's going to be all right. And, you know, Sukru is on the phone. He's like, his mate in the military. And his mate in the military is like, go to this gate. And then 5 minutes later, he's like, oh, by the way, you heard anything from my lads out there? Because I've not heard anything of them. You know, maybe they've gone to the toilet, you know. And no, they've not, because right in front of them, it's just kicked off. And it's like just wee beats like that. You know, and again, it's using that performance of the zombies, because as soon as he comes off the phone, this zombie just slides in out of nowhere at the end of the hallway, just takes down one of the soldiers that they thought was coming to help them. And it's at the same time as like Sang-ho's coming down the escalator and just sees that group of soldiers, and it's just a great shot, because as it goes down, you're like, for fuck's sake. You know, and then it kicks off. It's those moments of like intensity. You know, I think a lot of people saying it's mid were like chatting about how it's just like fast and loud. It's like, well, I don't think it's that for the first 20 minutes, which is your classic action movie thing of just settling everyone in. You know, like I think Die Hard takes about 25 minutes to just figure out what the relationships are to everyone, as well as the geography. And Train to Busan kind of does the same thing. You get the central relationships. Certainly with a train, the geography is easier than an entire building.
Yeah.
But you understand where everyone is, you know. And so then, for me, that's where the film's got carte blanche to just do what the fuck it wants, you know. And if you don't buy into those first 20 minutes, I don't think you're going to buy into the rest of the film. But for me, like that sort of emphasis on getting performance right, getting the effects right, and then using the editing and the music to kind of just make the beats land and to get the pacing right, just really good, man.
Yeah,
really
it's
fucking
really
good movie.
Because even when they stop at that station, there is no music used to show like the eeriness of it. It's all really just still, and you, as an audience member, you're almost trying to listen out for like the growl of a zombie or people or chatter or anything. And then when they hit that escalator, that's when everything just elevates again. And it's funny you talking about World War Z, because the scene towards the end when they all start latching onto the back of the train reminded me of like World War Z. Or
that's so funny, say it, Gary. That's exactly where I wrote World War Z, because the way they're clambering over each other, reminded me of the scene in that country in the Middle East, but might be in Europe, where they're all like clambering over each other
to get over the wall, isn't it? And,
the wall in World War Z, and it's for all its faults, by the way. Like World War Z is a film I always liked watching. because it's a fucking mess. I don't know who decides to take a $200 million blockbuster with Brad Pitt in it and say, "Aye, let's end it in Wales."
Yeah.
Right. But I fucking fuck, man.
Yeah. To me, like that's the interesting thing. I think this film has got like tonally an action like World War Z, but this has got more. This is saying more interesting things, and it's got more interesting characters.
Yeah.
I think World War Z exists within a system that one decided to change the book, which was quite British anyway, and then change it to be an action movie. Now, an action movie with Brad Pitt. Brad Pitt is against all odds, because he looks like he has played a Greek god, right? His movies are always interesting, Brad Pitt, right? Like, I think that's why people were disappointed with F1. It's like because it was such a popcorn movie, and there's an assertion that Brad Pitt is better than that.
I loved it. I loved F1.
I've not seen it. I've not seen it.
F1's a movie that, like, it's a popcorn movie. I think Conan O'Brien Oscars is a popcorn movie. He knows what it is. It knows what it is, and that's great, right? But with World War Z, it's like, I think that's why people are annoyed with that film, because they're like, here's Brad Pitt. He's been in all these great, especially at that time. He'd been in Benjamin Button. He'd done his work with Fincher. You know, the films that he'd been in without Fincher were still with directors like Ridley Scott or with or Wolfgang Petersen or Steven Soderbergh. You know, and here he is in like a zombie action film that is just a zombie action film.
Yeah.
You know, whereas Train to Busan is a zombie action film that's also a social commentary and functions very well at both.
Yeah,
you know, whereas World War Z only works well as a zombie action film. As soon as you start thinking about it, you're like, you know. And for those that have read the book, you're like, what? You know? Whereas Train to Busan, like the train, the zombies, they need to get here. We're in, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what was interesting about watching it, is you're like you're saying, you're like, this is what the other films could have been. You know, even something like 28 Weeks Later, which I think is better than history gives it credit for. But I think it's like, you know, unless you're like a Danny Boyle or something, which was it? Who did 28 Weeks Later? It was Sarah Deer. Like, you can't really say interesting things in genre sometimes.
Yeah.
Whereas I think Train to Busan, there was like, we want to say interesting things because Korean cinema allows for that.
Yeah.
You know, why I can kind of like say, look, this is my unofficial South Korean class trilogy: Snowpiercer, Train to Busan, Parasite. It's like they're all great films that work within genre to try and get its point across. You know, whereas something like 20 Weeks Later or 20 Years Later, Bone Temple maybe, or World War Z, they can only work within their genre because that's all that will be allowed within that system of filmmaking.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more.
I don't know where that TED Talk came from, but you know what? Cut it if you don't like it. I'm having a good time. No a 6 out of 10 time like Gary.
What I was going to say is, like, some of the, just when we're talking about the effects and stuff, like the CGI, I think for the most part still holds up. The makeup looks great when they do go practical. I guess the CGI of the deer standing back up still really kind of got me. I knew it was a CGI deer.
I was as soon as the deer shot came and it just comes across. But it was really smart framing because it comes across at like road level. You know, so you've got nowhere to hide, and the deer gets back up. I was kind of getting ready to wince in that way that when you watch older films, you're like, oh god, this effect's not going to be good. And then I watched it, I was like, that's not just really good for 2016. That's just really good.
Yeah, you know, totally.
It's probably where all the money went.
Yeah. Yeah, because I've seen.
Because at the end, I was thinking Yeon Suk's contacts aren't in properly, but I'm like, we spent all the money on like a deer's hair. So.
Yeah, but that's funny because there's a few. I've watched all of The Walking Dead, and there's a few deer shots in The Walking Dead, and they're CGI, and they look terrible. And I understand it's an episode and the budget's not as big, but to see something in the same genre do it pretty good, I was happy with.
I'm sure you and I spoke about this before, Gary. It's like when you work within a system, particularly a Western system, it's like you need to do things like fast, and at the end of the day, good enough is enough, right? Whereas if you work in like a system like South Korea, it's like, I don't know what time you get, but certainly there does seem to be a higher bar to get these like because it's like effects in Parasite, particularly around like the geography of the house, that you just wouldn't know were like effects because they're done at such a high standard.
Wow.
You know?
Wow.
Yeah, and certainly like Snowpiercer, it's like, and we're going further back. Snowpiercer's like 2012, 2013.
Something like that.
There
Yeah.
are obviously massive effect shots, but even now you're like, shit, that really holds up.
Yeah, I guess it's not Korean, but like another example of it would be Godzilla -1, right? Like just
Yeah, good. Well, do you know Godzilla Minus One? Great example, Gary, because the guy who directed Godzilla -1, he's still with us. He's a visual effects artist anyway. So they made him director, and they were like, right, here's your budget for a Godzilla movie, which is something like 10% of a Hollywood Godzilla movie, right? Mm-hmm. By the way, I never like American Godzilla movies, right? American Godzilla movies are like setting fire to someone's fucking house and then coming back to pour gasoline on it. Dramatically, right? And they're fucking terrible. They always have been terrible, right? And now I can't even say my favourite thing about an American Godzilla movie is that Puff Daddy song. It's just everything's ruined for me. The American Godzilla movie, right? Stop making Godzilla films. I don't care if you've got Kurt Russell in your TV series. I don't want to hear an American going, "Oh, there's Godzilla." It's like, you fucking know what Godzilla is. This is all your fault. Anyway,
Vito's going to hate me here, right? But
yeah, can I finish my point?
Okay, you in the mail? I
know.
So the guy that did Godzilla -1 knew what he was fucking doing, and they gave him the confidence to know what he was doing. But I bet there's like zero rushes. I bet one of the actors would be like, "Oh, can I try and improvise this?" And that director was like, "Well, you fuck."
Yeah.
Stand there, say what I need you to say, and then we're like,
No, I was just going to say that Vito will hate me here because I'm kind of a fan of the 1990s Godzilla, not as a Godzilla film, but just as a Hollywood, like a popcorn flick, like World War Z. Like, it's not doing it, but if you don't look at it as a Godzilla film, it's a fun ride. And I watched it, but bear in mind when it came out, I was like 8.
You were 8?
I think so. Yeah. I was about 8 when it came out. Aye. Well, when did it come out? What, 95 or something?
97.
97, so
10.
So
I was
10.
No, I wasn't. I was 14.
I was about 10 or something like that. So I was a kid, man. I had the action figures and everything. So
can't tell you the last time I
the
watched
best
that.
thing about that film was like the marketing campaign was like top tier. Like people still talk about that marketing campaign more than they talk about the movie. And that great shot of like the guy fishing in the pier in New York. And I just never got the geography of Godzilla. I'm like, why the fuck's he in New York? He's from Japan. It's like what? How's that? Like, I know his lengths are a bit, maybe his swimming pool lengths are a bit bigger than mine, but still, like, he's not knackered, eh? No wonder he's tearing the gaff apart. But anyway, let's Godzilla -1, Takashi Yamazaki. Like, that's who we should be giving props to. Like, so I'm sorry if you like, Gary, I'm really sorry if you like the American Godzilla. Right?
I know it's terrible.
I don't know what's wrong with you. I don't know what's wrong with you.
Gary, you're a prick. That's what he's trying to say.
And I can't believe.
You're not a prick, Gary. I just think that for a man of your standing, watch more movies, right? And don't be scared of them if they've got subtitles. Right? Unless you've got hearing issues.
No, if I had hearing issues, I should be watching the subtitles.
Aye.
The movies, well, Gary. Right?
Oh,
anyway, right. Do you have anything to say, Stephen, about this fucking travesty of an opinion?
I hope he's not talking about training.
I've heard about Train to Busan. All I remember from that Godzilla film was the song with Puff Daddy, because it used Jimmy Page on guitar playing Kashmir, which is a banger.
Right. Let's bring this train back into its final stop.
Let's do it. Just so you know, Gary, just so you know, we've been on one podcast. You gave Heat a 6 out of 10, right? And now you're saying you like the American Godzilla. It's like, I'm trying to like you. I'm trying to be your friend. And I just want to say I'm trying. Stephen, you work with me. You know I'm a good sort, right?
I know, mate. I know.
Right. I'm just saying, Stephen, like, you know, I think you just take Gary aside and just say, like, Gary, we're going to maybe watch some movies that aren't shite. And continue your education. Gary, I'd love to be there when you saw that you could have films that were in black and white.
Yeah, to bring this train into its final stop, we've got some listener insights as well. So Rachel Munnock says, I love Train to Busan. That ending got me right in the feels. And Final Girls Glasgow said, I am still not over Train to Busan. I'm guessing talking about that ending as well. We spoke a little bit about the ending already. But I want to know your thoughts kind of on that final shot where they walk through the tunnel towards the military. I think, her singing was great and it was really emotional. I thought she was actually going to get killed because a lot of it was relatively bleak. However, if I was walking beside Suan, I definitely would be telling her to shut the fuck up in case any zombies hear us.
Well, I think for myself, I thought that at first scary, but then obviously when they get off the train, they do pass through that little area where clearly all the zombies have been killed. And so I think that as well, you do see that shot of like a cargo container being put into place, which I think is meant to be a point of view shot. So from that, you can infer that they can see that there's signs of sentience there. So I love the ending because it brought it all back thematically. There was a bit of hope there as well. Like a child singing is quite a hopeful thing. Mm-hmm. Like people have been in war zones, they kind of talk about when they hear like a baby crying or children playing, that they're like, actually, there's something to come out of this, and it's a good thing. And that was kind of what I was thinking about when she started singing that song, which for her's important because it's the one she wanted her father to hear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I did see as well good performances from the two actors playing the soldiers, because they don't oversell it, but you can tell they're tired. They can tell they're maybe a bit shell shocked, but you can also tell that they're going to pull it back a little bit. Maybe there is a version where the last shot of the film is like the guy with his trigger on the finger and then cuts to black. Mm-hmm. But for myself, I was like, you know what, I fucking need these two to survive, man. Yeah. You can't kill a Wayne and a pregnant woman in your last shot of the film. Yeah. It's no cup of tea.
Yeah, I thought they were going to do like the Mist ending type thing, But we won't spoil that. We won't spoil that. Were you hinted on that ending?
No, I think what you said about, because you're right. It's like almost no one is safe in the film, and then just in that last bit, you're like, oh shit, they're going to take at least the pregnant women out. You're going to, and then they kind of the song kind of whistles out of the wee girl, and it's like hope, hope, innocence, hope, and it's nice. I loved how they did cut on her face, because I think she was absolutely gorgeous as well, just her face, and she's still got the tears, and it's just like it's a nice way to end the film.
Great performance for the Lassie, man, honestly. Like it did remind me of Snowpiercer a bit, where, sorry to spoil this, I'll try and be vague, but like the last image of that Snowpiercer I never liked because it's off a polar bear, and which is meant to infer life has come back to the planet, but I'm like, you've just left the survivors with the most dangerous animal in a no environment. Like, what? Come on, eh? But whereas like Train to Busan's, like, at least it leaves you with seemingly capable people. Hopefully capable people. So I didn't find it like a pro-militaristic ending either. I just thought it was like a logical ending. That they are the people that would be safe and doing things like putting cargo trains in front of tunnels.
Yeah. Kevin Halton says Train to Busan is a horror masterpiece. They don't come much better than that movie. And Seek Wando says, I'm a bit of a zombie movie purist and I don't usually like fast ones, but I'll make an exception for this. Now, when he says fast ones, I don't believe he's talking about the speed of the train. I think he's talking about the speed of the zombie. What do we think of fast zombies versus slow?
I'll say right now, if the gentleman's saying he's a zombie movie purist, then he should be satisfied that in the tradition of George Romero zombies, it's got a ton of social commentary in it.
Yeah.
And that's what, I saw George Romero talk years ago, I think. What was the final Dead movie called? The one with John Leguizamo? Army of the Dead or something.
Land of the Dead?
Land of the Dead, the one with Dennis Hopper, John Leguizamo. And he was talking to Edinburgh, and he said he wanted that social commentary in it. So that obviously George Romero's no whiz, sadly. But he was talking about like Bush era politics and how America dealt with the rest of the world. And then he linked it back to what he did with Dawn of the Dead, which is about consumerism. So for myself, if you're a zombie movie purist, you shouldn't give a fuck what the zombies do. It's about what the humans are doing in that film.
Yeah. I would also say, in regards to like fast or slow, what I did like about this was adding something else onto it about them not being able to see in the dark, but also when they transformed, you kind of heard all their bones clicking. It's really good sound design, as if they were like turning into like another entity, and you could almost feel the pain in that, like legs and limbs snapping, which I thought was really cool as well.
Yeah, there's one shot when they're leaving the station that they stop at, and one of the baseball guys gets caught and sort of bitten, and within seconds he does this sort of like twist with his body a couple of times on the platform, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
up and runs.
I
and
know
it's just
exactly what
like,
you're talking about.
It's so quick and it's like it's almost kind of circusy, like the way he moves his body.
Yeah.
So it's quite impact. It's quite
Like a
creepy.
contortionist.
Essentially. Yeah.
Wait, I'm not to add to that because you guys have made like those great points there. I think again, like the performances, either the actors they've got or the direction they've been given is like immaculate. I'm glad you used the word contortionist because some of it was quite painful to watch.
Yeah. I'd also say this film falls down for something that a lot of zombie films do, and the time it takes for someone to turn depends on what the plot needs it to do. So some of them turn in 2 seconds, some of them turn after 5 minutes where they can hold the door for 5 more minutes and go quickly, go. And like, it's so annoying when films do that, but that's the only way I can
They
explain
did
it.
go into that more now with was it 28 years later went into that a little bit, or was it Bone Temple went in? They said some of them just depends on the person, and
I think it
where
was
they've been bitten.
no. I think the 28 years franchise does it pretty well because they all just turn right away.
Right away.
The Walking Dead tried to say that it depends on your blood type.
Aye, because like tainted meat and all that. Like,
Yeah.
that's why he could walk a bit for a while. I didn't like The Walking Dead. I was just fucking bored of it after a while.
Fair.
Even Robert Kirkman got bored with it. He's like, I'm not going to turn him, but fucking well, fuck it.
Yeah. So, what would we rate Train to Busan out of 5?
I'm going to defer to Stevie Kerr here.
Yeah,
I don't want to hear what you think, Gary Hewitt.
I'm going to go 4.5 trains out of 5.
Yep. I'll go 4.5 out of 5 baseball bats.
I'll go. Fucking, I need to think of something funny now. Like, I'll go 4.5 renditions of a Hawaiian folk song that you wouldn't think would break your heart, but fucking well.
Is that out of 10?
4 out of 5 madongs.
4.5 out of 5. I listen. I understand why people say it's mid because I think if you're exploring it now, after Walking Dead, after World War Z, etc., even though it came out after World War Z anyway, I think because of the hype, I think you will be like, what is this? But actually, it's like, I was watching thinking this is really well directed, it's really well acted. I think, if anything, it's got that kind of like mid-2010s grading that they were doing. Like we're talking about the dark tunnel scenes. They're not really dark tunnel scenes, they're like blue. Blue kind of tunnel scenes. But that didn't take away from the fact that like the writing was solid, the performances were solid. Suk-woo, like, you think he's an arsehole at the start and you're glad he's not an arsehole at the end.
Yep.
Like, that's good acting, man. And obviously we're talking about Sang-hwa. He is like the breakout. He's the one that's been in the big Korean movies. He's been in like big blockbusters like Eternals, etc. You know, so I think that's when you know when you're watching a good movie is like you'll see someone in something else and say, one, that's the guy for Train to Busan, and two, I'm glad they're getting stuff because they're really good at what they do.
Yeah.
Couldn't say any better. What is your creative recommendation this week?
Creative recommendation this week is I Saw the Devil, another South Korean.
Oh, hey. Yeah, great shout.
It's great. It's a great movie. You've not seen it? Have
Not
you?
yet.
Oh, man, it's brilliant. Really, really dark
Gary,
thriller.
subtitles.
I'm alright with subtitles.
Because you've got Lee Byung-hun from Bittersweet Life and latterly Squid Game. You've got Choi Min-suk from Old Boy.
Yeah.
They're fucking titans in the game. And I don't even want to talk about it, Stephen, not because I do want to listen to your dulcet tones, but saying anything about it might spoil it. It's one of their films,
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and it's just a fucking good movie, Gary. Like, definitely check it out.
No, definitely.
Aye, sorry, hijack you there, Stephen.
No, right,
Vito, what's your creative recommendation?
I'm going to have to be really basic here, and a lot of people are talking about it anyway, but I'm going to have to sort of just put my hands up and say that I loved Resident Evil Requiem. I just thought, obviously, being the age I am, I've grown up with Leon S. Kennedy, and seen the boy have another game. It completes the Leon trilogy: Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 4, and now Resident Evil 9. He's also in Resident Evil 6, but fuck that game.
Yep.
And I loved it all the way through. It's like it's universally been applauded by the Resident Evil fan base, which never happens, man. So it's got like the sheer survival horror of Resident Evil 7, which is a genuinely terrifying game for most of the runtime. And then you've got the kind of Resi 2, Resi 4, Leon gunplay. And some quite affecting moments in it as well. I don't want to spoil anything, but it's like, you know, I was like, I'm glad they've gone down this route with these like characters. I'm not saying in any way it's a film that can be adapted by Chloe Zhao or anything like that, but it's I was like, this game is terrifying me, but it's also smartly paced enough to give me the catharsis that you'd expect from the series. So well done, guys. I'm not making a shite Resident Evil game. It's been a ride over these 30 years and you've done it again. Well done.
On that, I actually went out on Sunday and got myself a PS5 and I got Resident Evil Requiem, because I think it was announced last week that the price for the consoles was going up by like £100, and I've been wanting it for a while. Aye, something to do with the chips, something to do with the battle of AI. Yeah. So I was like, I seen it and I was like, just go out and get it. So I went out, picked one up, but I've not set it up yet, so I've not had time, so hoping to maybe start it in the next couple of days.
So I've not got too much more to add, because my creative recommendation was Resident Evil Requiem as well. So Vito's seen most of it. I'm still very early stages of the game, but I'm liking it. And I was, you know, it's not often, you know, you can watch like a film and you can see like an old character that, you know, you started a franchise with them, they were young and now they're old and they've got wrinkles. You actually see Leon's wrinkles and you realise that you've been playing this character for so long that actually felt quite sad for the character that's just, you know, just made of computer graphics. So yeah, it's great.
A lot of people are getting that, I think, because they've kept the same voice actor from Resi 4.
Yep.
Or at least the remake anyway, so at least there's some continuity. I was chatting about this with a friend as well, because my friend Richard Plant, like he loves games, but Richard can be a bit cynical. I think that's fair to say, Richard, if you're listening. And he was saying how he loved it, and we were chatting about he bizarrely, because he's a very intellectual guy, Richard, he loves a bit of Chris Redfield. He loves playing as old Chris. And I was saying I never liked Chris, because Chris was just a muscly guy that shot stuff, whereas Leon had the arc, and he has the arc in the games. He, like you say, he goes from rookie. Now he's like the veteran kind of guy. And he has some banger one-liners, man. It's just like, it's for the epitome of what Japanese game developers think an American person in an action movie should do and say. Like, they've got it fucking right, man. And also on top of that, to just have that miracle of you caring about this block of pixels.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah, absolutely.
You finished Dead Space, didn't you?
Finished Dead Space as well. It's a good game, if you recommend that.
One of the best, the first ones. The remake you played.
Yeah. I played the original before and I bought the remake as well. Yeah, it's good.
That old, Gary.
I know. So that brings us to the end of the podcast. Vito, you're working on a project just now. You managed to speak a little bit about it at the start. Is there anything else you want to say? What stage it's at? Bear in mind this might be out in a few weeks, but yeah.
Well, that'll be all right then. Because we're looking. I know you won't use this part anyway, but we're looking at shooting like mid-June. So that's you'll be out before then, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So right now we're in the middle of a crowdfunder for a project called Matriarch. It's a comedy horror short film set in the Scottish Highlands. It's about two estranged sisters, Claire and Leah. One of them's been taken under the wing of a cult leader who wants to initiate this ritual to bring about the destruction of the old UK and bring about a new UK based on, shall we say, Arthurian or purer values. And obviously Claire, the older sister, has to try and stop this nonsense from happening. We started a crowdfunder a few weeks ago. We weren't sure if we could raise the amount of money we wanted, even though we had Create Scotland back in. Create Scotland have this amazing scheme called Crowdmatch, where they will match pledges on crowdfunding platforms, specifically crowdfunder.co.uk. And from that place of anxiety of not being able to raise the money we needed, which was 12.5, within 4.5 days we were sitting at just over 12,700, and right now we're at just under 13,900. So we're going to be making this film at some point in midsummer. We've got a great cast: Rosie Hart, Milo McDonald. They also wrote the project. We've got a fantastic director of photography, Bart Sienkiewicz, very experienced Polish, London-based cinematographer. And we've got recently added Stuart Condy. Stuart Condy is a well-known presence in the Scottish film scene. He's a guy that every few years he'll come out from making his videos for the finance sector. You know, he's very well paid for that, Stu, but he'll come out of retirement to do a short film that'll then be nominated for a BAFTA. No one can figure it out because Stu's Instagram is just him trying various pints of Tenants. But I'm very humbled that Rosie and Milo, who are very talented actors and writers in their own right, they've asked me to direct it, and that Bart and Stuart have got enough confidence in my abilities to say yes as well. So, we're thinking that this project, it's going to be a short film that people are going to want to watch rather than feel that they have to watch, which I think some get in Scotland. We think it's quite culturally resonant right now. It's about the forces of nationalism. It's about how families can be hijacked and divided by politics. I think it's a good one for Scottish people to kind of make, because I think our brothers and sisters down south in England are going through a bit of an identity crisis, whereas in Scotland we've always kind of known like who we are, and we kind of have I would say, an objective view and cynicism, I would say, about politics and how it can divide. So this film will also be funny. Don't worry.
Yeah. And where can people keep up to date with the film and yourself for any news on the project and how it's doing and etc.?
Cool. Well, our Instagram is @Matriarch the Movie. My Instagram is @Vito LM. If you do want to look at the crowdfunder, where there's a video on there, which Gary, Stephen, you've seen, and you've not told me it's shite, so thanks for that. That's crowdfunder.co.uk/p/matriarch, and that is where you'll get to find more information there. If you want to give money, thank you. If you want to share the project, thank you even more. And I just want to say as well, thanks to you guys for your support over the years. I know that Gary, we've hardly ever been in the same room with each other, and Stephen, we were together for the first time. We're vaulting over fences to try and find camera equipment that was stuck in trams a few weeks back. But I just want to say that it's like you guys and people like Ashley Dick, Steve Johnson and Dave McCormick, who've been giving me advice on the crowdfunder. And I have to say the GMAC crew as well, if I may, that you guys are what I think of as like the sort of vanguard of Scottish filmmaking. I love the fact that we've all got each other's backs, man. So thank you for your support. Thank you for letting me come on and pour myself out a wee bit at the end of this.
Anytime, my man.
But as well, more importantly, I need everyone to know that Heat is a 10 out of 10 film. Anyone that says otherwise is a shambles.
On that note, you might have already mentioned it, but what is your favourite horror movie?
My favourite horror movie, I have to be basic again, Gary. I said at the start, I'll say it again. I've always been transfixed by The Shining, because when I was younger and I watched it, it terrified me. When I'm older and I watch it, I can see why it terrifies me, and it goes far beyond buckets of blood and guys with axes. I do love the fact that it has those weird horror tropes, like the tour of the hotel at the start, where it's just dropped in nonchalantly, like, this is on an old Indian burial site, whatever. The fact is that a force of nature like Stanley Kubrick has decided to bring everything to bear on a horror novel, which was at the time seen as like an airport horror novel. Now it's recognised as a classic, as a lot of Stephen King rightfully is. But the fact that Stanley Kubrick read that and decided, I'm going to make a horror movie, but I'm going to spend a year making it. I'm going to fucking traumatise my cast. I'm going to reinvigorate the technical aspects of camera movement, and it's going to be an out-and-out banger, and then I'm just going to go and do fuck all for a couple of years before I make a random Vietnam film. I love it, man.
Nice.
I love it. I understand The Shining may be a bit dated now. I understand the politics behind how Stanley Kubrick treated people, whether it was Jack Nicholson or Scatman Crothers, or predominantly in the current analysis of the film signals Shelley Duvall as a victim. Yeah. And she was not treated well on that film. But I think that you shouldn't hide from the fact that it is an utter masterpiece.
Absolutely.
And it's an unsettling film as well.
Yeah.
That's what I love about it.
Having Kubrick come and take on this film, this horror film, is like, if Christopher Nolan decided to do a horror today, right?
He would, but then he'd kill the wife, because that's all Christopher Nolan can do.
That's true. Yeah, that's a good point to end it on, Vito. Thank you very much for coming on the podcast again. So if you are loving what you're hearing, then you can leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. You can follow the podcast at The Horror Cut Show on Instagram and TikTok, and you can get in with your comments and reviews on the films that we are covering on our Facebook group, The Horror Cut Show. Join us next time, but we have no idea what the film is going to be, so you'll just have to wait and find out. Cheers, thanks.
We better get back, because it'll be dark soon, and they mostly come at night. Mostly.
I guess everyone's entitled to one good scare, huh?
We're friends to the end, remember?
This is the end, friend.